Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is German Dictator AH in Hell. Before we get into it, I just want to mention a couple things. Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, you can certainly do so. When you join, you get advanced podcasts, a chat function, and a direct mail where you can just ask me questions. It's a lot of fun. And if you're interested, just go down to the description and click on the Patreon link. Next up, a private astral projection lesson. If you'd like a lesson to learn how to astral project or just improve your current abilities, be glad to work with you. All you have to do is go down to the description section and check that email out and just ask for more information. Lastly, I just want to mention playlists again. If you're into space and aliens, time travel, the Q&As, Astral Guide School, Astral Club, or interviews with non-humans, you'll find each of them has a playlist. So you'll be able to see all of the podcasts that maybe you missed, or maybe some of your old-time favorites. That's where they'll be. Okay, let's get started. Now, on the instructions of my angel guide, I traveled to the sub-astral hell to interview an infamous man from the 20th century. Even mentioning his name can get a YouTube video buried in demonetization. He had been a German dictator with the initials AH, and you know who I'm talking about. His wars of conquest lit the flame of World War II and had led to the passing of many millions of people whose only crime was just not fitting into his idea of humans who deserved to live. Now, I had resisted the suggestion of a number of Astral Club listeners for quite a while now, but finally I decided I'd descend willingly into the lowest level of the astral, where souls who refused to change slowly, gradually rotted over the millennia, a true self-imposed hell. I appeared in the sub-astral hall that I'd visited in past explorations of this grim plane. The hall contained many narrow passageways, weaving their way around this pit of despair. The light level was low, but bright enough to bring out the reds and the black colors on the walls, as well as the towering obsidian pillars that lined the long infernal hall and disappeared into the darkness high above. I clothed myself in my black hooded robe and selected one of the seeming infinite amounts of portals that led to where my angel guide said I'd be able to locate perhaps the most evil man who ever lived. As I made my way along the path, an eerie light emanated from the pulsing walls of souls enduring the glacier slow process of soul death. Now, I use the word soul death. Souls can't die, but they can get to a point where, yeah, the soul's still a coherent matrix, but it's degraded to a point where I don't even know that if it would be possible to regenerate it after many, many, many millennia of just not wanting to change, not wanting to improve, not seeking out a way to actually come to grips with the problems you've had in the past so that you can move forward and begin another attempt at reaching the goals and the heights that your soul perhaps had meant to achieve many, many, many millennia ago. I tried to keep my astral vision focused on my forward progress, but there was no way to block out the telepathic moans, grunts, whispers, gasps of regret, and screams of abandonment. My guide had asked me if I'd attempt to save AH from the sub-astral. I replied that I honestly had no idea what I'd do when meeting this figure of ultimate evil. He then told me that many had tried to lead AH to a place where he could face his actions on Earth and lead to an eventual redemption and a next life. But all had failed in this goal, leading to the degradation of the dictator's astral body and his sinking down into the sub-astral. I was almost ready to give up hope on finding my quarry when I reached an area with a gaping, ebony, dark, bottomless passage to who knows what new horrors. This was where I was told I could find this fiend. AH, I summon you. Leave your deep pit and talk with me, I demanded. I didn't see any reason to be polite here. I waited for what I thought was long enough before I tried Plan B. I decided to bait my hook with something he'd find impossible to ignore. I instantly changed my black robe into an SS Hauptsturmführer or captain's uniform. Mein Führer, I began, you must return to save Deutschland and the German Volk. I heard a rustling noise as the demonic man I'd summoned crawled from his lair. He looked more creature than man as he crawled to a place on the far side of the chasm. He crouched on his haunches in a defensive mode, his dark eyes darting from side to side looking for hidden threats. He wore no uniform or clothing, but was naked. His astral body was becoming hazy on the edges of his form. At least his trademark mustache was still in evidence. All in all, he made a pathetic figure that almost solicited pity from me. But that emotion was a bit too far for me to reach right now. AH spoke up first. Are you truly one of mine? No, I replied. I willed my uniform to disappear, to be replaced by my patented black robe. I'm afraid I'm not a member of your Black Guard. I've come to interview you at the request of others. He raised an eyebrow, a cruel smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Interview me? I am the architect of a 1,000-year empire, a man whose name echoes through eternity. Do you think I am some insignificant soul to be interviewed? I didn't flinch one iota. Calm down, Ace. I looked for one of the defects in his personality that I could exploit. I selected narcissism as a likely candidate. I just thought that a great man like yourself might like an opportunity to set the record straight. Why do I need you? He hissed. I left my legacy behind when I chose to depart my mortal life. Your legacy lives on, yes, but not in the way you imagined, not in the way you hoped. In the twisted remnants of a failed ideology, in the misery of untold millions, your name, for all its weight, has brought more suffering than you ever could have imagined. The question is, do you understand that now? Do you grasp the consequences of your choices? AH's eyes darkened, his face hardening into a scowl. He gripped the rocks by his hole tightly, as if preparing to jump like a frog over the gulf that separated us. Consequences? Of course I understand. I was a man of vision, a visionary with the courage to do what others were too weak to even dream of. I aimed to cleanse the world of the filth that had infected it. It was not about cruelty. It was about order, purity. I leaned forward. I put all my venom in my telepathic response. Order, purity. Those words mean nothing when they come with a sea of blood. For a moment, Hitler's gaze wavered. Just a fraction of a second, a shadow of doubt passed over him. Then it was gone. You speak of blood. Yes, there was blood. The blood of warriors, of patriots, fighting for a new dawn. He said, his voice dripping with conviction. Sometimes, for greatness to rise, sacrifices must be made. but the price you paid was too steep. My telepathic voice reverberated throughout the room. You didn't just sacrifice warriors. You wiped out entire populations, millions of innocent lives, and destroyed what could have been. The Fuhrer's lips parted, a dangerous laugh escaping him. Innocent lives? These people, these innocents, were not innocent. They were part of the decay, the degeneracy that poisoned Europe, that weakened our very existence. You think I am to blame for their deaths? I gave them a chance to become something greater, something pure. But you couldn't even understand their humanity, AH. You reduced them to objects, to ideals that fit your narrative. You didn't see them for who they were, as people with hopes, dreams, and families. You stripped them of their humanity, and in doing so, you lost yours. AH's fists clenched, his face flushed red with fury. He stood abruptly across the chasm, facing me. Enough! You speak as though you understand power. You speak as though you understand the stakes I was playing with. I sought to reshape the world, and in the end, I nearly did. I built an empire that would have changed everything. An empire built on destruction? Your vision was nothing more than a house of cards, built on lies, hate, and fear. It fell. You fell. And now you're here. What did you think was power? Did you see it as anything more than a fleeting illusion? AH's face went through paroxysms of fury, his eyes burning with the remnants of a fanatic's rage. I was never weak. I never feared death. I control the fate of nations. You, whoever you are, you have no idea what it means to shape the course of history. I don't need to, because history has already spoken. Your legacy is not one of greatness, but of devastation. And now you must live with that. You must face it forever. Because in this sub-astral hell, there is no escape for you. There is no next time. There is only the truth that you sought to bury in your blood-soaked dream. The dictator's eyes flickered with something. Was it fear? A sense of futility? But it passed quickly, replaced by defiance. And what? You think you can break me? He sneered. You think your words will shake me? I have faced the mightiest of opponents. I have stared down enemies from every corner of the world. I'm not trying to break you, AH. I was just showing you the reflection you've never wanted to see. With that, I turned and started back on my trail. But before I had gone too far, I looked back to see the great leader slithering back into his hopeless abode, his ultimate reward for his deeds on earth. There was no redemption for this wretch of a soul. If he had shown the least amount of remorse, I might have tried to rescue him. But it looked like he'd found his permanent home in the sub-astral hell.